Hello friends, it's Marianna and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Have a little bit of a different setup today. For today's video, I just want to make it kind of like we are best friends and we're on FaceTime or we're just talking about personal finance. And by that I mean in no way am I a financial advisor or am I saying that you should 100% take this advice and run with it from today's video. This is more so two friends chatting about finances in your 20s, specifically your early 20s. And that's kind of what I want this video to be. Quite relaxed, quite chatty. I am 23 years old and I do all of these practices myself to make sure I have good money habits, and I am not a financial advisor. Like I mentioned, I do not have this amazing knowledge of money or a huge amount of income. It's more so what I do, and I just want to share that like friends do. That's all. I don't think that this topic is talked about enough, especially with people my age, and I don't think a lot of people have access to this information or just aren't sure where to start. So I hope that this video kind of clears some things up or helps you start your own finance journey or your own budgeting journey or whatever the case may be, that you get a little bit inspired to kind of take control of your money. That's what I wanted to kind of make this video about. I also wanted to say that personal finance is not a one size fits all. Everyone is going to have very different situations. Doesn't matter what your income is, where you live, how old you are, like what your job is. It's always going to be different. And also your perception of like what is important to you and what you want to spend money on will also be so different across everyone. So again, like I mentioned, this is just my knowledge, my kind of point of view, but it is not what you have to do. It's just something I want to talk about and share on this video on YouTube. And yeah, just take it with a grain of salt, and hopefully these tips can be a little bit inspiring or educational for you. I don't even think I mentioned the title of this video, but it is 5 money mistakes to avoid in your 20s. So without further ado, let's get started. First thing is not budgeting. So that's mistake number one. Is a lot of people I see, even close friends of mine, they do not budget, and rather they just get their paycheck, they spend their money without kind of looking in their cash flow. And I think that's a huge mistake. Knowing where your money is going and where you're allocating your money, if you're saving anything, is really important, and it's a really great habit to start from a very young age. So why not start today? Budgeting is very crucial because it helps you stay on top of your money. I say this a lot in my channel. I talk a lot about budgeting and I post what I spend in a month every single month. So if you are interested, you can check that out. I believe it's here. Not budgeting is mistake number one. I think people just don't think it's important enough. And you don't have to sit there and kind of allocate money to every single like subcategory in your life, but just being aware of like how much you want to allocate for spending for the month and how much you want to put in your savings is just a really great place to start, so that you are just very aware of how much money is coming in and how much money is coming out every month. Mistake number two is failing to set financial goals. This kind of goes hand in hand with the budgeting one, but if you aren't sure of what you want to, like how much you want to save or what you want to do, whether it is to buy a house or to buy a car or to rent your own apartment, whatever the case may be, if you don't have any financial goals, you're not going to reach a lot of financial success, in my opinion. It doesn't matter how small your goal is, as long as you have something and you're working towards something. I think that's the most important part. It's always really good to have a strong why as to why you're doing something. For example, I have a couple friends who live with their parents and they want to move out really badly and have their own place, even if it is just renting, it's not buying like me. And the one thing that I see in terms of a mistake without having financial goals is they want to do this, but they don't have anything in place to actually be able to do it. So for example, if you are living with your parents and you really want to move out and you're getting your paycheck because you're working a part-time or a full-time job, whatever the case may be, and then you are just spending your money without actually saving towards moving out, and you don't have that super strong goal, then you're not going to be able to achieve it because you're just spending that money, you're not actually saving it. So what I would do in that situation is, let's say you are working a part-time or full-time job and this is how you want to continue working, but you really want to live on your own, or with some people I would say start. Actually, another tip is try and have roommates when you're in your 20s because you don't want to put all your money towards rent. But let's say you know that rent will be a certain amount of money. If you can, while living with your parents, start pretending like you're paying rent and save that amount of money towards a specific savings account, which will be your move out like fund. And then you're actually going to be not only starting to practice the act of paying rent every month, but you're also like practicing saving and budgeting all in one. So that's something that I would say is to have financial goals. It doesn't matter if they're really small or they're really big, but have stuff that you're working towards that you can check in every month or every couple of months to make sure that you're like achieving something and working towards something in terms of your finances. The next mistake is spending more than you earn. This is such a big thing I see, and not even with just young people, but just in general. Like, it's very common nowadays to pay in installments for things that we don't really need, or to take out loans for things that we don't really need. And when I say that, like when we go shopping for things like clothes and accessories and technology that we don't need but are purely wants, you should really not be paying later, paying in installments for things like that. I think that's a really, really bad like money habit. Question your purchases, think about your purchases, and ask yourself, is what you're getting, like if you're planning on paying for something in installments, is that item really worth it, or is that thing, your experience, really worth it? You know, like, is this a life or death situation? Do you really need this right now, or should you save up for it and then get it? That's something that I like to do. I talk about this a lot as well in my channel, and it's like, if I want to go to a concert, for example, or want to buy a new piece of gear like camera lens, I will save a little bit each month towards it rather than just spend it all and pay later. Because even though I know I can have this item now and I'll be paying later as if I was saving up for it, you just never know what can happen, and you might have emergencies. So I would rather have the money to buy the item rather than have the item and then potentially not have the money for it. That's why I think it's really important. It also just helps you question your purchases, and it helps you have that control of your money, because instead of like owning money for things like a t-shirt, you are just buying it and owning it fully. I hope that kind of makes a little bit of sense, but I don't think that going into debt or paying installments for things that are completely unnecessary, and just, you know, we live in this very consumeristic world, and I don't think it's important to buy as much as we do, especially when you are like spending money that you don't even have yet. So really question your purchases and sit with yourself and be like, why am I buying this? Do I really need it? Do I even have the money for it? Mistake number 4 is not starting an emergency fund. An emergency fund is, as the name suggests, a fund of money for emergencies. You just never know what life's gonna throw at you, and I know we always think that things won't happen to us or we'll be prepared for things, but you just never know. So even something as little as putting £100 every month or every 2 months towards an emergency fund until you build it up a little bit, like a little chunk of money, is really, really important. So I think it's suggested that you have roughly 3 to 6 months worth of like your living expenses, your basic living expenses, in an emergency fund. So let's say worst comes to worst, you lose your job and then you're trying to find another job, you at least have 3 to 6 months worth of living without having to go into debt or pay everything with credit. So it's a really good thing to have. And I don't think you need to have, like, if you're just starting out your career, right, you're 20-something-year-old, you don't have to have 6 months worth of saving. That's going to take you a little bit to get that amount of money like saved up, but having a little bit, even if you start by every single month you put £50, right? I live in London, so that's basically like 2 lunches out, 2 dinner outs, whatever it is. Like £50 is not a lot when you think about how much you'd spend going to a restaurant or going on a night out. So if you forfeit 1 per month and you put that towards an emergency fund, that's already a lot healthier of a money habit for you to start building in your early 20s or in your 20s in general. That will help you and save you in the long run if an emergency does happen. I always say it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Super important to remember. And this goes with a lot of things in life. Like, I just have anxiety in general, so even like my carry-on video, I was talking about how I have like hand sanitizer and handy wipes and tissues, all the things I might need to like clean myself or be prepared, because I always say it's always better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, especially when it comes to money and your finances and emergencies. You want to be prepared. So start your emergency fund, no matter how small. Put a little bit every single month, and if you think you can't do it, just question where your money is going, which goes back to my first mistake of not budgeting. If you say, well, an emergency fund would be great, but I can't afford to put 50 or 100 or even 25 pounds in each month, if you look back at your budget and you see how much you're spending, then you're like, actually, if I just don't go on this one night out, or if I just don't buy this one pair of jeans this month, I could actually have money for an emergency. And it's all about like values. What do you think is most important to you? But I think my perspective again is that I would rather have an emergency fund than an extra meal out type of thing. And my 5th and final mistake is not comparing prices. This is a huge one that can seem very, very small, but it's actually going to make a huge difference in the long run. When I talk about like comparing prices, it can be like the smallest little thing, and I'll give an example that happened to me recently. So I bought like this pressed juice thing, and originally it's quite expensive. It's something I've been wanting to try, but I haven't gotten it because it's quite expensive. It costs like £4 to £5 per bottle, but I saw it the other day at the store and it was on sale for £3 for the whole bottle, which I thought, okay, great, I'll try it. When I went to a different store, that same exact bottle was £4.60. That's £1.60 extra, and if I buy this juice multiple times and I get it for £3 rather than £4.60, I'll be saving so much money in the long run for things like putting money towards an emergency fund. That's like a very silly little example, but one thing that I recommend is to have like store apps on your phone. So if you're at a grocery store and you're like, this seems quite pricey for what it is, you can check quickly on like other grocery stores on their apps if it's much cheaper that way, and you can see what makes more sense for you to get where. Another thing is also comparing the price of like name brands versus off brand. So a lot of the times the quality and the product itself are going to be the exact same, but because it's a name brand, they just price it way more expensively. So that's another way that you can save money. Also, just being mindful of different offers going on. Like I mentioned with the juice, it was on sale for £3. I would never buy this juice for its full price, so as long as it's on sale, I might keep buying it because it's good and it's good for me, but I'm not paying the £4.60 for it. I think that's too expensive. Comparing prices will help you save a little bit in the long run. That's going to add up to multiple different things, like concerts you can go on, little flights you can book, emergency fund you can put money towards, because if you're saving like a couple cents here or a few pounds there, you're gonna end up having like 10, 15, maybe even £20 saved up across the month, and that makes a big difference onto things that you can buy. Because if you think about what £20 can get you, or £15, that's like maybe a new book or a new top or a few coffees here and there. So it's worth comparing prices, even if it seems like it's a very small difference. Also, little side note with comparing prices, use coupons. Like I go to Lidl a lot because that's my like closest supermarket. It's also really cheap, and the Lidl app is super good with coupons. So try your rewards. Same with the Tesco. I don't go to Tesco as often, but I also do go there quite a bit, and I have the Tesco Club card. You can save so much money on that. So sign up for those rewards, boots points, all of that. That's like I guess a sixth tip is to sign up for like store cards or rewards. Don't let it like pressure you to go there more often, but it just means that when you do go there to buy what you're going to buy anyway, you're still getting points for other things. An example is like with Boots, I have to buy pharmacy items regardless, right? And so I like to go to Boots. They have good prices going on. A lot of times things have even like a cheaper price if you buy with the Boots card, and I also get points for it. So for example, I pretty much only buy like little makeup items with points that I get with my Boots like purchases. So sign up for like points and rewards and stuff like that on places where you usually go to anyway, not places that you're gonna go to just to like use money to get the points. So those are all of my top 5, kind of 6 money mistakes to avoid in your 20s. The big takeaway message from today is that every dollar counts. So start today if you can, and just do what you can with your little emergency fund, with budgeting, with comparing your prices, making sure that you are saving where you can, and just being all in all smart with your money. If you have any questions about personal finance, please leave them down below in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer them, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!